The sun burned low over the dry plains, its last light turning the desert gold. The small town of Dry Creek lay quiet, the air thick with dust and the memory of gun smoke. Sheriff Cole Dawson leaned against the wooden railing outside the saloon, watching the road stretch out into the endless horizon. His once dark hair was now streaked with gray, and the weight of 20 years of blood and silence showed in the lines on his face. He had seen too much. Wars between men and tribes, greed that poisoned hearts, and the kind of loneliness that only the West could teach a man. As the evening wind swept through, he heard the faint sound of hooves in the distance. He squinted. A single rider, small but steady, was approaching from the desert trail. When the horse came closer, Cole noticed it wasn't a man at all but a young woman. She was dressed in traditional Apache leather, feathers woven into her hair, turquoise beads catching the dying sunlight. Her eyes were sharp, but beneath them lingered something familiar, something that tugged at a long-buried memory. She reined in her horse in front of him, dust swirling around her boots. "Are you Cole Dawson?" she asked, her voice steady but soft. He nodded, pushing off the rail. "Depends who's asking." "I'm not here to cause trouble," she said, raising her hand slightly. "I've come to find someone. A man who saved my life 20 years ago, when I was just a child." Cole's brow furrowed. "You sure you're in the right place, miss?" She looked straight into his eyes. "I'm sure. You were younger then. You had a scar on your left cheek. You pulled me out of the river near Apache Ridge when our village was attacked by bandits. My mother was gone, my people scattered. You carried me to safety and gave me your water. You told me to run and never look back." The world seemed to stop for a moment. Cole's throat tightened. He hadn't thought of that day in decades. The cries of that burning village, the terrified little girl clinging to his arm. He'd buried that memory deep, along with so many others. "You," he whispered. "You're that child?" She nodded. "My name is Aluna." A silence settled between them. The years melted away, and Cole felt the ghost of the young girl he'd once saved standing before him. Now a proud woman, strong and calm, with the spirit of her people alive in her eyes. "What brings you back here?" he asked, trying to steady his voice. Aluna looked toward the horizon. "The same men who attacked my people. Their sons run this land now. They've taken more Apache ground, including my father's valley. They plan to sell it to the railroad. I came here to ask for your help." Cole exhaled, rubbing his jaw. "That was a long time ago, Aluna. I ain't that man anymore. I keep the peace here. Don't go meddling in old wars." Her eyes glimmered with fire. "You may have forgotten, but I never did. You once fought for what was right even when no one else would. I came because I believed that man still lives inside you." The weight of her words hit him hard. For the first time in years, Cole felt the stir of something, a sense of purpose he'd long abandoned. But helping her meant stirring up trouble he'd spent decades avoiding. Before he could speak, a voice shouted from across the street. "Sheriff, we got riders coming in from the east." Cole turned. A cloud of dust rose in the distance, a group of armed men galloping fast. Aluna's eyes narrowed. Them, the sons of those who destroyed my people. Cole's hand went to his revolver. "Looks like you brought company, miss." She mounted her horse. "No, Sheriff. They've been following me since the valley, but I'm not running anymore." Cole stared at her, at the courage in her stance, at the same determination he'd seen in her mother's eyes years ago. Then he took a deep breath and stepped off the porch. "All right, Aluna," he said quietly, drawing his gun. "Looks like we ride together one last time." The first shots rang out, echoing through the empty town. Dust exploded from the ground as they took cover behind barrels and wagons. The past and present collided. In that moment, the old Cowboy and the Apache girl he'd once saved, standing shoulder to shoulder once again, fighting not just for land but for justice, for memory, for redemption. As night fell and gunfire faded into silence, only two shadows remained standing. And for the first time in 20 years, Sheriff Cole Dawson felt alive again. The morning sun crept over the jagged cliffs of Apache Valley, turning the rocks blood red. Smoke still rose from the embers of the night's fight. Cole and Aluna had driven off the raiders, but it came at a cost. The town was shaken, and the men they fought would surely return. Cole knew this wasn't over. Aluna stood by the riverbank, her reflection rippling in the cold water. She wore the same turquoise necklace her mother had once given her, now cracked and faded but still glowing faintly in the light. Cole approached quietly, hat in hand. "You did good last night," he said gruffly. She turned, offering a faint smile. You taught me well. 20 years ago? Cole chuckled softly. Didn't think you'd remember an old fool like me. I never forgot, she said. A man who saves a life never fades from the heart. Her words stirred something deep inside him, a warmth he hadn't felt since his youth. But before he could respond, a distant gunshot echoed through the canyon. The fight wasn't done. Cole and Aluna saddled up and rode toward the valley. Dust kicked up behind their horses as they descended into the land that once belonged to her people. There, in the heart of the canyon, stood a wooden fort, the raiders' stronghold. Cole studied the scene through his scope. Too many men. We'll need a plan. Aluna nodded. My people taught me to move with the wind. They won't see us coming. They crept through the narrow gullies, silent as ghosts. The fort's guards drank and laughed, unaware that vengeance was closing in. As night fell, the moon rose high, painting the valley in silver light. Cole and Aluna struck fast, two shadows against the firelight. Bullets flew, torches shattered, and the echoes of justice rang through the canyon. Aluna fought fiercely, her bow whispering through the dark. Cole's revolver thundered beside her, each shot precise, deadly, righteous. Together they moved like one, the protector and the saved, the past and the present bound by fate. When it was over, the fort was in flames. The land was silent again. Aluna stood over the last fallen man, the son of the outlaw who destroyed her village. Her hand trembled, bowstring drawn. Cole stepped beside her. Revenge won't bring peace, he said quietly. Justice already found its way here. Her eyes softened. Slowly she lowered the bow. The fire crackled between them as the first light of dawn broke over the canyon walls. This valley belongs to my people again, she whispered. Cole nodded. And so it should. As the wind swept through, Aluna looked at him with gratitude and sorrow. You gave me life twice, Cole Dawson. Once as a child, and again as a woman who could finally stand for her people. He smiled faintly. You didn't need me this time. You just needed to remember who you were. She reached out and pressed her turquoise pendant into his hand. Keep it. A reminder that even the desert remembers kindness. He hesitated, then closed his fingers around it. Thank you, Aluna. She mounted her horse and turned toward the rising sun. Farewell, Sheriff. If ever the land forgets your name, the wind will remember. Cole watched her ride away, dust trailing like a ghost behind her. The desert was quiet again, but in his heart, something had changed. He looked down at the turquoise stone glowing softly in his palm, and for the first time in a long, long while he smiled, as the sun rose high above the valley of ghosts. Cole Dawson turned his horse toward town, a man reborn by the courage of a woman who never forgot.